How's it going, everybody? Ted Purchase, Bold Lens Photography, Panasonic versus Olympus. Which one should you get and why? Well, we're going to go over that in today's video. Panasonic versus Olympus. When I first started shooting Micro Four Thirds, which was about a year ago, the general consensus was if you wanted a great video camera, buy Panasonic. If you wanted to get something that was better at stills, you buy Olympus. But things have kind of changed since then. Biggest one being the G9. Now, for video, I really think that Panasonic still pretty much has Olympus beat in almost every way. Olympus has maybe a couple small advantages, but for the most part, I think that Panasonic is better. But for stills now, with the G9, Panasonic really caught up to the EM1 Mark II, and I have an EM1 Mark II right here. And when this camera came out, this was a revolutionary camera. It was really good. There was nothing on the market like it as far as mirrorless goes. This was really, one of the first good mirrorless pro cameras that was out there, and it really laid the path for the G9, for the Fuji XH1 and the A7 III. But the G9 came out, and I got a chance to use that the other day, and I'm sorry to say that it really beats this Olympus in almost every way. It has a better EVF on it. The stabilization works just as good, but the dual stabilization, you have a lot more lenses that support that. With Panasonic, the focusing was better. The 80 megapixel mode on it's better. The handling feels better. It has a top screen. It really, when it comes to stills, the Olympus has a couple advantages, like live composite, so you can see your long exposures as they're happening. But for the most part, the Panasonic is just equal or better in every way. But that's also not really a fair comparison, because it came out quite a ways after and really just did everything that the Olympus did but better, and that's really easy to do when you come out after another camera. So I really think that when the EM1 Mark III comes out, that really should, that really should beat out the Panasonic, at least in stills. I'm hoping so. If they don't, they're going to be for a world of hurt, because the video capabilities are really far behind what Panasonic can do. They're further behind than the G9, and the GH5 is even better for video than the G9. I really feel like my EM1 Mark II is pretty much on par as the G85 that I'm shooting with right now, but that's a mid-level camera that's half the price. So for right now, the current market, I really think that Panasonic is just, in a lot of ways, it's really beating out the Olympus. But the Olympus has one huge, monstrous advantage that the Panasonic doesn't have, and that is the autofocusing system. Even though the Panasonic, in my experience, is a lot better for stills, seems to be much snappier, does a better job, the Olympus system is hybrid versus the Panasonic, which is a contrast system that uses DFD. Now, DFD is going to behave and be real snappy and awesome, like I said, when you're using a Panasonic lens with a DFD profile. But when you put on the Olympus lenses, then it's not as good. It's going to behave like a contrast detect system versus the Olympus, which is going to be awesome no matter which lens you throw on there. So it really limits your lens selection on the Panasonic, where with the Olympus you have a much bigger, much better lens selection. One thing about the Olympus lenses, and here's the Pro lens, this is a 12 to 40 f2.8 constant aperture. They also make a 100 to 400. Panasonic, if you want something, like a higher end zoom like that, you're looking at a 12 to 35 or a 12 to 60, and the 12 to 60 is f2.8 to f4 Leica. So, and that's really goes across a lot of the board. When you go into the longer pro telephoto zoom, the Olympus is a 40 to 150. The Panasonic is a 35 to 100. And it's just one of the things that I noticed is that Olympus lenses, they tend to be bigger, heavier, but they also tend to have either a better range or faster apertures. Like their Pro Primes, they have three 1.2 primes right now where Panasonic only has one prime that's at a 1.2 aperture. Not that Panasonic doesn't have a lot of other great primes that are 1.4, 1.7, 1.8 or whatever, but you know, that's one of the things I know. But the nice thing about the Olympus is that you can pick and choose which one you want. With the Panasonic, at least for your lenses that you're going to be shooting any action where you really need the best autofocus, you're going to have to stick with Panasonic lenses. So even if you decide to go with either brand, if you plan on using Panasonics, you might want to make sure that maybe some of your real key run and gun lenses are Panasonics, even if you buy an Olympus, because then later, let's say you want to get a Panasonic like a GH5 to do video, well, your Panasonic lens is going to work a lot better with that, or with a G9. That's something that I wish that I would have known when I invested in Olympus, because honestly, I think one of the best things about the system is that it's a universal system. You can go back and forth, you can use the same lenses on each of them, but with the Panasonic lenses, they're going to focus good on the Olympuses and the Panasonic. Unfortunately, that's not a knock at Olympus. It's really Panasonic's kind of screwing them over, but that's just the way it is. So I'm actually looking at getting, you know, most of my lenses, at least my key lenses that I need for running and gunning, I'm looking at switching those to Panasonic now that I'm getting into video, because the cameras are vastly better at video and pretty much equal at stills these days, if not better at stills on top of that. So that way, when that EM1 Mark III comes out, if it really blows away the G9 in stills, I can just pick that up. My lenses are going to focus great on that, just like an Olympus lens would. So that's one thing that you have to keep in mind when you're picking which system that you want to go with. One thing that I noticed immediately is the overall handling. The Olympuses aren't bad, and they have a lot of really nice things, and they have a few quirks. Every camera brand has a few annoying quirks that make you want to pull your hair out. Neither of these brands is an exception to that. But just overall, I feel like the Panasonics are better handling cameras. I think they have better screens, better touch screens, better EVFs on the newer ones. On some of the older ones and the lower end ones, like some of those older EVFs are actually really bad on the Panasonics. Now they're just as good, if not actually better. And just the layout, the handling, the feel of them, especially on that G9, you know, at the top screen, it's just, the handling is really, just seems a lot better on the Panasonics these days. I'm just loving how they feel in my hands. But let's say you're new and you're not going to be picking up an EM1 Mark II or a G9 or anything like that anytime soon. What about the lower end cameras, the EM5 series, the EM10 series, or the Panasonic G85 that I'm shooting myself with right now? Which one should you go with? In my opinion, for stills or for videos, I'm really liking these Panasonics vastly better than the Olympus. The real crummy thing about the Olympus lower end cameras, the EM10 series, the EM5 series, all the pen cameras, is that they don't have hybrid focus, they don't have DFD or anything like that, and they are just god awful at getting autofocus on anything that's moving at any decent speed. If it's somebody doing a slow walk or an animal taking a drink of water, it's going to be fine, but trying to do birds in flight or any action on those, it's a nightmare. It's about the worst camera that you could pick up for those. In every other aspect, they're really good. They're not as good as video, but in a lot of the stills aspect, they're just as good, if not even a little bit better than the Panasonic. But except on that autofocus, it's just not good. So, you know, if you were looking at getting into it, I really like the GX85. I hate the viewfinders really bad. So I would say if you got the money, you know, go for the G85, the G9, maybe even a GX8. That's what I would start out with. If autofocus is not a big deal, then the EM10 and EM5 series, they're going to do great. But just also, like I said, remember about those lenses. You know, you might want to think about just getting the Panasonic lenses. A lot of them are really comparable between the two brands, so you might as well get the Panasonic, because they're going to perform, at least the autofocus is going to perform just as good on the Olympus as it is on the Panasonic. And like I said, there's only 2 Olympuses with stabilization, and a lot of the Panasonics have it. So there's really not much penalty for using the Panasonics on the Olympus, but there is if you're using an Olympus lens on a Panasonic camera. So definitely keep that in mind. So which one should you go for and why? Well, it really depends on what you want to do. Like I said, a lot of the body features on the Panasonics these days, I really think that they're just superior in a lot of ways for stills and video, but you also have that lack of lenses that you're getting with Olympus, especially, you know, when you're looking at higher end pro lenses, those 1.2s, the 2.8 zooms that have more reach than the Panasonic lenses. That's going to really turn a lot of people towards the Olympus side. And then the other big factor is when that EM1 Mark III hits, the EM1 Mark II decimated every mirrorless camera that's out in almost every way when that hit. Are they going to do it again? I don't know, but I have a feeling that they will. I think that's a camera that Olympus takes seriously. They need to take seriously. That thing needs to be innovative, just like the last one. If they're going to be staying competitive, I think that they're going to deliver, but I don't know when that's going to come out. It might be a year, might even be 2 years, but I think that when it does pop out, it's going to pretty much beat the Panasonics, but maybe the Panasonics will, maybe they'll get really aggressive and fire back, kind of like what Sony's doing, kind of like what DJI does. A lot of these companies, they'll have these things ready, so as soon as the, you know, the competition comes out with a better model, they'll have one ready to hit them. So that might happen. You never know with those kind of things. It's really just a big guessing game. So, you know, at the end of the day, which one should you get? You know, I would probably, for most people, go with the Panasonic on a budget. Later on, maybe even if you are into serious photography, then you could get the EM1 Mark II. You'll have an access to all those lenses. It's still really great that even though the G9 beats it in a lot of ways, it beats it by like this much. So you're getting a lot of small advantages, in my opinion, with the G9, and with the Olympus, you're only getting like really a couple small advantages, like the live composite, and then the big advantages being the lenses. But other than that, I really have to hand it to Panasonic on most things. But either way, as long as you get the Panasonic lenses, you won't be disappointed either way. Because then if you decide to switch it up, you'll have great lenses no matter which system that you use. And of course, if you don't really need super great autofocus, like if you're just doing macro, you're doing portraits, you're doing landscapes and that kind of thing, those EM10s, EM5s, in a lot of ways, they're pretty much just as good, maybe a little bit better in some ways than the Panasonics. We also have the EM5, Mark II or Mark III that should be coming out. And that should be pretty good. We'll have to see what that thing can do. But yeah, so that's what I would go with. But anyways, guys, I hope this video was informative. I hope it helps you make a good decision on which camera that you should buy when you invest in Micro Four Thirds, and I'll see you next time.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, enable notification, and comment down below. If you'd like to support this channel so I can make future content, check out my website, boldlensphotography.com, where I sell fine art prints. You can also donate money at patreon.com/boldlensphotography. And I'll have links below to all my social media accounts. And hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.